Kesha Ram, and let's remember what this is about. This is about coming together and standing together for universal background checks and gun safety in Vermont. And I want to thank Senator Baruch, Senator Sorokin, everyone standing behind me, everyone who couldn't be here today for standing with us and raising our voices. But more than anybody, I want to thank all of you, because so many of you have been here from the beginning. From tragedies where we said enough is enough years ago and gave 11 of us in the House the courage to stand up for universal background checks when others said it was political suicide. So thank you for being with us and standing with us from day one. And you know, you've heard some of the statistics, some of the ones that are with us, that a majority of responsible gun owners in Vermont and a majority of Vermonters want to see responsible gun ownership and universal background checks for all Vermonters, closing loopholes on gun sales at gun shows and all over the internet. And you have been a part of that important journey in making that happen. And we know that some of those statistics are incredibly heartbreaking. That in the last decade, we have had approximately 55 domestic violence-related homicides, and that over half of them were conducted with guns and with firearms. And one of those is one too many. And you have stood with us time and time again and said, enough is enough. What do we have to wait for to act? Let Vermont people be heard and let us have a voice. But I'm also here to talk about what's behind those statistics, because I spent many years as the legal advocate and then the legal director of Women Helping Battered Women, now Steps to End Domestic Violence. And I can tell you that it's tragic how many people we lose to domestic violence related homicides and to gun violence. But it's equally as tragic how many people stay with an abusive partner because of the threat of using a weapon against them if they should try to leave. And I can tell you what it was like to be on the other end of a hotline when a woman said, it's Thanksgiving Day and he just shot the dog and I think it's time for me to finally go. Do you have room in your shelter? And I can tell you what it's like to go to the police station in the middle of the night with a woman who says, I know this is just a piece of paper, and I know that I need the state to enforce this and to back me up, because every time I've tried to leave, he opens the gun cabinet and says, I know exactly where I would hide that body. And that's what we're up against in Vermont. When our homicide rate doesn't even begin to tell the story of so many people behind closed doors who feel that they can't leave in those situations. And we are here standing with all of them as well. So thank you for doing that and for standing up for so many people who are silenced. You are an incredible movement, and we need to keep going. And we need to not stop at universal background checks, because I can tell you that we can stand with the NRA and say it's also about enforcing the laws on our books. That we have laws on our books that are supposed to protect victims of domestic violence, that are supposed to keep guns out of the wrong hands, that are still not being enforced in the state. And as Lieutenant Governor, I will not only fight for laws that will protect people, I will fight for actions in our courts and at our law enforcement level that will help protect victims of domestic violence and keep guns out of the hands of felons, those who are adjudicated mentally ill, and those who are domestic abusers. I ask you to stand with me, not just for the victims that we've already lost, but the people that we can save now. Enough is enough. Please stand with me. Let's work to end domestic violence and gun violence in Vermont. Thank you.
Paid for by Friends of Kesha, Stubb Earl Treasurer.